And this is what happens when you hit a deer on the way to work. Alright, so today we have a 2004 Pontiac Vibe. The customer came in and we actually have an exhaust problem. I don't know if you can really see this, but the exhaust actually rusted off in 2 different places. So they left her on the side of the road. We actually did what we could do to get her here to the shop so we could work on it, but I have some spare exhaust pipe laying around from previous projects, and I wanted to make some videos, so I went ahead and told her bring it on over and we'll see what we can do to help her out. Also going to go ahead and check the fluids and all that with the car, because with the customer, I know it's not really checked regular, so I want to go ahead and make sure that the car is going to be safe, and I'll let them know what they might need as far as air filter and oil and all that good stuff. So I'll let you guys follow me on the process as we go along, and hopefully we get her up and moving. I will go ahead and start. We're going to go over and check her batteries. We notice it's a little loose. Obviously this tie down is not holding anything, and if you look down here, it's kind of hard to see. It's actually broke. So I'll see if I have the rod that I could use to hold this battery down, because I really don't like the fact that it's moving so much on me. But start with that. Sorry if this camera ever focuses. Also going to go ahead and make sure that the coolant reservoir is full. And on your Pontiac Vibe, you don't really have any way of telling except for getting down in here and you'll actually see a full line. So you got to make sure your coolant is up to your full line. Also, I will check the oil. I'm going to let it set for a little bit because it's running. I want to make sure all the oil drains down to the oil pan, so when I check it, it is correct. Also have the transmission to check, which I will have to start the vehicle, and you can actually check it cold or hot, but you want to have the vehicle running so it goes through the system. So we'll check that here in a little bit. Also, we're going to have add windshield washer fluid. The power steering fluid is actually on the max line for when it's cold, so she's good there. She's definitely going to need new headlights, or at least these cleaned up. They're awfully yellow, which we may do that on another day, make a separate video about it. Also going to have to check the air box and see how everything looks in there, and then we'll start addressing the exhaust. Alright, now we'll go ahead and check this oil. Now I always like to do it twice. Try to do this one hand, kind of difficult, but you pull it out and you see that there's oil on the dipstick, and it kind of looks like it's about a quart low. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, these 2 dots, one at the bottom which is minimum, one at the top which is maximum. Normally in the middle you're about a quart low. So what I like to do is I actually will wipe this off and put it back in and double check it just to make sure it's accurate reading, and it's not just the oil coming down the tube that makes it an inaccurate reading. So we went ahead and wiped it off, which this thing will ever fucking focus. Went ahead and wiped it off. So now we're going to go ahead and insert the dipstick back in, and we'll just push it all the way down as far as it will go, and we'll bring it back out. And this will give us a more accurate reading. As we see, it's a little bit higher than the last one, so which isn't bad. It's probably about a half quart low, which is actually okay. I mean, it's not going to hurt your car. I'll still fill it up with another half quart, but it ain't going to hurt nothing. So the next step, we'll get this car running and check the training fluid. Neutral, park and brake, and now we can check it. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the transmission fluid. I'm going to go ahead and pull the dipstick tube out. I'm going to wipe it off, put it back in, and check it again. Now as you can see, kinda. Hold on, hey, there you go. It actually says cold down on your 2 notches, which means the fluid is right where it needs to be. So we're good there. Okay, the next thing we checked is your brake fluid reservoir. And it's kind of hard to see, but it's way down here next to this blue dot. And it's supposed to be way up here. So obviously we have either something's leaking, wheel cylinder, or something. Because a lot of times your brake fluid doesn't just evaporate, it will actually be leaking somewhere. So that's another sign we'll definitely be looking for as we're underneath the car doing the exhaust. But this cap, it literally just pops on and off. There's no snap, there's no twist, there's no turns. It's a rubber cap. You just pry it up, and there you go. And if you happen to read your cap, there's a lot of writing on it, but what you're particularly looking for is right here, and it says only .3 fluid. So that means is when we look at your brake fluid, you want to look for that .3, and this is good for ABS, disc, and drums, like it says on the container, which this has ABS. So this is definitely going to be what we are using today to fill this up to our max level. Okay, so now, since we was a half a quart low on our oil, we're going to go ahead and fill it up to where it needs to be. And again, you're going to look on your engine cap. Sometimes it is in your manual if you have it, but most people end up losing it. So if your cap has it on there, you're a good way to go. If not, you can actually go to auto parts store and find out there, or you can get online and look at the specs. I mean, it's pretty simple, but what you're looking for is right there, 5W30. And what we're going to actually use is high mileage 5W30, because I know this car has a lot of high miles on it. And it's just a simple twist cap. And there you go. Now we're actually going to get a little ballsy and do this without a funnel. Oh yeah. Now I want you to make sure you always give it time to settle, because now all that oil you just put in there is on the top of this motor, and it needs to settle down to your oil pan. That way you can get an accurate reading. So we'll actually come back later and recheck this dipstick, because too much oil can be just as bad as not enough. So now we're on to our exhaust portion of this car, and here's actually the piece that broke off. Now it has been patched before, if you can't tell, but we're going to go ahead and patch it up again. So first thing is, we know we're going to have to cover this and weld it, and weld will not stick to rust. I mean, it will, but it won't, if that makes any sense. So what we're going to do is go ahead and clean this up as much as we can, and we're just going to put a sleeve over top of this. So I don't have to cut this off. I can literally just go over top of it, get it clean, and weld it. And that's probably what we're just going to go ahead and do. But we're going to go ahead and do both sides, and we're actually going to use a 60 grit flap disc. This is what your flap disc is. It's actually like a sandpaper, but it's on a disc for your grinder. So we're going to go ahead and use that, clean them for ends, and inspect and see if we have any extra issues, which I did find it out earlier, if you can't see it, but right there you actually have a hole. So we may end up filling that up, because even though I put this column over top this exhaust to weld it up, it may not actually meet that hole. If this is in a bin, it's probably going to go about here that I welded up, just so I can make this bin into your muffler. So we'll have to double check. I may end up just filling that in, but we'll find out here shortly. Okay, now that we got our pipe mostly grounded down to where we should need to weld. We're going to go ahead and get underneath the car again, pull off the muffler, and there's actually 2 rubber boots or grommets or whatever you want to call them that have the muffler hangers that hold into them, and it's on both sides. When I get back under there, I will show you pretty much how it works, but I'm going to go ahead and spray it down with penetrating fluid to try to help it out, because that rubber, it's kind of a pain to get that hanger in and out of that rubber, so I'm trying to give it as much help as possible. But we'll go ahead and do that out, and then we can clean up the muffler end and see what we need to do to repair the muffler. And as well as that, the whole pipe itself is actually going to drop down to the ground, so we'll go ahead and clean that up too, so we can get to measurements of what we need for a pipe. That right there is the rubber grommet I was telling you about that I was going to go ahead and spray. Now there is one on the opposite side, which I'll go ahead and get, and I'll start to untie the exhaust and the muffler, and we'll go from there. Alright, I'm going to take you through this. It's kind of hard to do it while videotaping, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. I did the other side. But basically all you're trying to do is you're overcoming this lip on this rubber. Now you can take it off the top, which it's going to be a little bit harder than not supposed to. Be able to come off the top as easy as the bottom. It actually comes in here. And most of your exhaust shops has a tool that allows you to push these things in and out of the rubber easier, but I don't have the tool. So basically what you're going to try to do is you're going to manhandle it. See how that moves? So we're actually going to try to push. Like I said, it's kind of hard to do by yourself, but you just got to push. It's getting there, but I'm going to need 2 hands for this. So I'm going to put this down. I'll get back to you in a minute. Alright, well, there you go. This is what we was fighting with. Now I ended up getting that side out a lot easier than this side. So I actually went to a spare channel locks. I put the top of your channel locks teeth on the rubber, and then I put the bottom tooth on your metal, like so. And I just brought them together. And what that allowed is for that flange to go on the inside of the rubber. And then once it got there, I could just push it the rest of the way out until it came all the way out. So, it was a fighter, but we got it. So now, it's time to clean up our edges. Which is, we got one right here. It's going to need a lot of help. And I'll have to untie the exhaust pipe under there and bring it down so I can clean it up too. I may end up jacking this car up just to make it easier on me. But for right now, we're just going to leave it down. So here's my cheap little welder, just a Job Smart with a Harbor Freight cart. No gas yet, but this is what we're going to use to do our exhaust. I went ahead and cleaned up what I needed to clean up, put the new pipe in. I still got to weld it up. Is it going to be pretty? Probably not, because that exhaust is actually thin wall tubing, so it's very easy to burn through. So you have to keep your welder on a low setting. And you almost have to take it, I don't know, like a tack weld more than an actual full-blown weld. When, one, you have a welder that doesn't have any shielding gas around it. So we're going to do the best we can with what we have, but we also are able to clean up any imperfections with our flap disc. And if we have any other minor repairs that are needed, we can still do it with this flux core welder. But it's still not as good as an actual welder. Like, I actually weld at work on a daily, and it's so much better, like, with the shielded gas compared to this. But when you don't have the funds to do certain things, you don't. You spend your money on parts and not on tools. But for what we're doing, it'll be okay. Which I plan on actually throwing some heat-sensitive paint, heat-treated paint, on this, just to try to make it last a little bit longer, because mild steel rust is so bad. And unless you really go about asking them to put on stainless like you have here, it's not going to happen. So most of your exhaust shops are just going to use mild steel anyway, and it doesn't last as long. So we're going to try to give as much help as possible by throwing on that paint and see if we can get her, you know, at least another year through with this muffler. Okay guys, it's actually the next day. I ended up having to stop my video early. I had 3 other vehicles I had to come in and I had to work on, and I didn't really get a chance to finish videotaping anything, so I was kind of in a rush. So sorry about that, but I did try to walk you through as much as I could of what I do in the process of checking a car. And I just want to go ahead and make this outro for the video, and I hope to see you again next time.